On November 11th, that's today, a new David Grusch interview dropped on Centro Ufologico Nazionale's YouTube channel, or in English, that would be National UFO Center. They are an Italian organization. Robert Pinotti and Paolo Gazzardi interviewed him. I perceive there is some new information from Grusch, and for my interests, and in particular, he goes into greater detail on the allegation of alien bodies being recovered than he has ever before. We'll cover that and some other quotes of his. Let's just dive right in. I'm going to go ahead and link to this interview right under the description. I'm certainly not going to cover every quote that Grusch had in this interview. In fact, it's only going to be a fraction. And it is my understanding that the YouTube channel that had this interview, National UFO Center, is going to drop the English version tomorrow. So keep your eyes peeled for that. I spent a long time transcribing the YouTube translation of the Italian. So the translation is what it is. Hopefully it's pretty accurate. And stay tuned for National UFO Center's YouTube channel publishing the English version where there's no dubs over David Grusch's voice tomorrow. Now let's just dive right into the first quote. I'm kind of going to paraphrase the questions, but I'll give you the exact rendition of the answers according to the translation on YouTube. David Grusch was asked, "Can you tell us, as far as you are told and as far as you can, how many UFOs or UAP craft are in possession of the U.S. government?" And he responds, "This precise information was provided to me in a classified environment, and I in turn provided it to the authorities, as I said in my interview with News Nation. There is a good number, let's say a 2-digit number, and though I am not authorized to reveal the exact number for security reasons. Furthermore, as I said in a recent interview on a YouTube channel called Yes Theory, it should be the President of the United States and or other personalities who provide the precise information, because I don't have all the data. I don't know all the ramifications. Then you always have to remember that if you give precise figures, there are always foreign intelligence services like Russia, China, who could watch this video and use it to verify their information. And I'm certainly not here to provide further data to foreign information services, which is why I always have to be very cautious in giving figures. Not because I don't want to be transparent, but because I know that these services will see this." So a 2-digit number is obviously profound. If it was only one non-human intelligence craft that was recovered, that would also be profound. One of the reflections I'd suggest that you have as you watch this video is ask yourself how civilization is going to respond if this comes out in an official, indisputable way, and all 8 billion of us have to accept the reality, assuming this is true, that there is an arms race behind near-peer adversaries, and all of them, including the United States, are monitoring UAP and trying to collect as many UAP as possible for back engineering efforts to have a strategic advantage over adversaries to attain military dominance. And that it's not just one or two, but it could be a dozen or more, at least within the inventory of the United States, that are from other intelligences. How would we respond to that collectively? I mean, can there be a bigger bombshell than that? That could be dropped on us collectively. And I'm just going to give you a heads up. I'm going to be publishing a Medium article where I talk about how my suspicion is increasing that we are headed towards some big revelation. And I know a lot of cynics will say, oh, it's always just around the corner and you're buying into nonsense, you're buying into mass hysteria. But I would retort with, I think you're making a miscalculation. Now, just because I think we are moving toward this kind of revelation doesn't mean I know. It means that I lean strongly in that direction. But the people that say it's a vanishing possibility that this is going to happen, and as a result of that dogmatic perspective, they kind of brush away everything that's happening now. I think they are making a huge miscalculation because they're so fixated on disclosure or UFO confirmation, use whatever terminology you want, that between basically when the December 16th, 2017 New York Times article dropped and when this bigger, more official confirmation occurs, they're basically ignoring everything. And so for them, it's a very binary, black and white analysis to where I'll believe it when I see it. When that revelation happens, then I'll take it seriously. But no, you should have been taking it seriously for years now. And you've missed all this history. And you have dismissed all this history based on a binary perspective that you either have proof or you don't. When I would say, no, it's not like that. You have tons of circumstantial evidence, some of it going back 70 plus years, some of it emerging post December 16th, 2017 with the New York Times article. And it's all painting a very compelling picture. Of course, that picture it's painting has not risen to the epistemological nature of scientific proof, but it's still very compelling. So to me, you're the one that dropped the ball, not me, and I'm going to write an article about that. So in this next question and answer, the translation isn't that great, but toward the end, it's really interesting. And Grusch cites the Schumer legislation. So that's interesting too. Just bear in mind that the most interesting component arguably of the interview is where he goes into further detail about recovered biological entities, and we'll get there shortly. Anyways, the question was asked to David Grusch. Could you tell us about the involvement of private corporations into the reverse engineering program or programs? David Grusch responds, yes. Over the years, there have certainly been private companies involved, operating both in funded research centers and federal level, or on the basis of contracts with the U.S. government, as I mentioned in another interview. In the Manhattan Project, the federal government organized structure, personnel, security. What were the elements involved at the level of private companies? And that were those of the government and other elements, for example, such as the Atomic Energy Commission, which later became the Ministry of Energy, and then the Atomic Energy Commission. And this is why in Schumer amendment, which should be approved hopefully before your symposium, it is mentioned among others the Law on Atomic Energy of 1954, because it was understood that the measures to impose secrecy follow precisely the lines of nuclear safety. But this is in any case is another matter which we will see perhaps then I mentioned the Schumer Amendment, where we talk about of transclassification of foreign nuclear information or TFN. And this is not a coincidence because it means, for example, that if the United States through intelligence operations has stolen foreign nuclear secrets that they found interesting and wanted to make them their own, then they have transclassified them by transferring them in the protected environment of nuclear secrets. And if you read between the lines, this is precisely what the amendment is trying to avoid, because it is this type of maneuver that is abused to justify secrecy through the measures for national security. However, yes, there are private companies definitely involved. Now this is big, I have provided all their complete data to the congressional committees and to the Inspector General with all the details I am aware of, including their names and addresses. I have also made sure that people who worked on such programs report everything to the Inspector General. I mean, it wasn't something that just came from me. David Grusch was asked, are you aware or can you confirm the fact that murders have been committed for the purpose of maintaining secrecy on everything concerning the UFO UAP subject? David Grusch responds, I have no direct knowledge of this, but of the approximately 40 people I have interviewed, I would say about a dozen of them expressed concerns about murders committed in the past or unjustified disappearances of people. And certainly quite disturbing things have happened to me in my personal life, such as physical intimidation. All things that I reported to my agencies when I worked for the government. I have never suffered physical damage, but I have certainly been able to observe traces of what I consider to be legitimate extra-governmental activities, such as the intimidation that I and other of my colleagues have suffered. And I guarantee you that these are truly disturbing things. So in short, I have no direct knowledge of this, but I spoke to direct witnesses, government officials in possession of high security credentials who made me aware of concerns regarding illicit activities such as murder and intimidation. I don't believe they were lying. I believe these genuine concerns. I'm the first to support the need for investigations to ascertain all this. Do you know what ECI is? I'm going to tell you. That's endless cosmic inquiries. When we finally, and I think that we will, but I don't know that we will, and I could be wrong, but when we finally passage into a post-disclosure world, there will be endless cosmic inquiries. It's not just going to be about the phenomenon. It's not just going to be about are abductions real? How many people are getting abducted? How often and how many craft are in our oceans? How many of them are manned? How many of them are unmanned? At any given time, how many of these craft are in our atmosphere? Likewise, how many are in near Earth orbit at any given time? But there's going to be endless questions about our very own government, such as, have there been murders of people so that they could keep this under wraps? Furthermore, were those murders motivated by any alleged deals that the U.S. government has made with non-human intelligence? If the U.S. government has made deals or pacts with any non-human intelligence or intelligences, what did that deal or deals comprise of? Did the U.S. government throw the American people under the bus and give these intelligences permission to do all kinds of nasty things to human beings? These are questions that are going to have to be objectively asked. And those loud voices that want to tell you what to believe and what's real, I suggest that you ignore those people because they don't have a clue. We are in uncharted territories. No one knows the truth. It's possible that NHI are fallible just as humans are, and some species are more enlightened than others, just as some human beings are more enlightened than others. The complexity that it may emerge in a post-disclosure world is unfathomable. I don't know if I'm ready for it. I don't know if you're ready for it. But it's what humanity needs, because the truth trumps all other concerns, at least for this. Okay, so this is where David Grusch starts getting into the biologics. The questioner asks, and I'm paraphrasing or shortening, you can confirm that the same kind of declarations that you publicly provided have been provided in classified environment by other military or intelligence officers regarding crashed UFOs and recovered entities. David Grusch responds, yes, these very facts have been confirmed to me by people with direct knowledge who have worked on these programs, i.e. that crashes happens and that we have recovered aircraft and biological material or bodies if you prefer, as I have already reported previously. David Grusch is asked more about biologics a little bit later, but let's get into another question. He was asked by the questioner, can you provide at least an estimate of how many whistleblowers have come forward? And David Grusch responds, yes. I think an article was published recently where it was said that there should be about 30 of those who have come forward to Aero office. I am not involved in this, but I can say that as far as those who have approached the Inspector General of Intelligence are concerned, There should be about a dozen. I don't know some of these, so I don't know if they brought others with them. And in any case, the fact is that I'm not the only one. I'm only the one who came forward on behalf of the group, but surely a dozen people did. People have come forward behind closed doors who are not all like me, but are those who work directly on the program, or if you prefer, they are those who actually touched the aircraft. And indeed, my assessment is that those that have worked directly in the programs, quote unquote, touch the craft or claim they have touched the craft, will be coming forward publicly in the beginning or middle of 2024. The questioner asked, what about the biological aspect? How many bodies were recovered as far as you were told? Only dead bodies were recovered, or also living biological entities? David Grusch responds, for sure, these are numbers like those of the recoveries from the crash. That is, in double digits. The biological finds presented different morphologies and were in different states. I will go further into this at a public level. However, I want to encourage the president and others who are entitled to report publicly on the recoveries of biological finds, and I urge the executive power of our country to inform the world. I'm not sure how good that translation is from the Italian to the English, but what I think one of the things Grusch is saying here is that he will go further into the specifics of the nature of the biological entities that were recovered at a later time. And he said that he wants to encourage the president and others who are entitled to report publicly on the recoveries of biological finds, and that he urges the executive power of our country to inform the world. And I think that makes a lot of sense. And I think some people might get upset at that perspective, but I actually think that's very logical. It's kind of weird that some Yahoo named David Grusch should inform the world about this extraordinarily profound discovery. No shade on Grusch. I say Yahoo endearingly or humorously. I mean, he was a high-level government official trusted with the most sensitive secrets of the U.S. government. But the point is, like, why is he coming out of the shadows to inform the world of the greatest discovery in human history? This is a personification of how mind-bendingly absurd the UFO cover-up is. It shouldn't be unfolding in this way. If indeed, and I lean toward this being the case, but if indeed crash recoveries have happened and biological entities have been recovered, well, that means we're not alone. That means there's another species or species out there that is engaging our world, our Earth, our people. What is going on? Have the president make some kind of official announcement and also provide scientific proof of the reality of it. Let us go into that next phase of our reality, of our evolution based upon these discoveries. It's just bizarre that David Grusch has to take it upon himself to come out of the woodworks and inform the public, and I think that's what he's getting at there. So I think that makes sense. He also says that regarding how many bodies have been recovered, it's in the double digits, and that they presented different morphologies and different states. I think what's meant by morphologies is literally different appearances, like grays and Nordics and the alleged praying mantises, if you will, the mantises. Experiencers, abductees, whatever terminology, contactees, whatever terminology you want to use, they have claimed to see different physical features depending upon the quote-unquote species they witness. And I think that's what he's referencing. And regarding the different states, I think what he's referencing is some have been in better shape than others, all the way from highly deformed because of crashes up to maybe some have actually survived and are in perfect working order. Who knows? But if what he's saying is true, then we need to be informed of this, and the cover up and all this secrecy just needs to stop, because this is This is more absurd than any words I could string together to reveal how absurd it is. It seems impossible. And I've said before that I do have cognitive dissonance on this topic. On the other hand, the longer this goes, and you don't have representatives like Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin and the Director of National Intelligence Avril Haines holding a press conference putting this to bed, and you have people coming out persistently, and this has been going on for 70 plus years, and it's only escalating now. The further we progress in this, the more I become suspicious that this is absolutely true, that this is real. It's a mind job, as was said in the movie The Matrix by whatever his name is. I can't remember his name offhand, but he said he asked Morpheus. He said, he asked Neo. He said, "Did Morpheus tell you that you're the one?" And I think Neo nodded yes. And he responded, "Jesus, what a mind job." Remember that? Well, I got news for you. I'm experiencing a mind job because this is continuing to go. This is continuing to progress. What do you think a healthy, normal, psychological adult is going to experience when this continues? A mind job. A mind job. And if this continues and we ultimately get confirmation of a level of complexity and mystery and bizarreness to our world, and we have to collectively digest that, we're all going to have a mind job. And frankly, I think we'll be better off because of it for a variety of reasons that are beyond the scope of this video. Something that I covered in an earlier video regarding the Soul Foundation's upcoming conference. That's slated for November 18th and 19th. Well, this upcoming conference hosted by the Soul Foundation is poised to be yet another instance of advancing the scholarly and policy-oriented approach to the study of the UFO phenomena. I believe it's going to take place at Stanford University, but one of the guests, and the only guest that I want to highlight, all the guests are amazing, but this one I want to highlight, is actually going to be Carl E. Nell, which is one of the whistleblowers, along with David Grusch. The Juan on Twitter summed it up real nicely regarding Carl E. Nell. He wrote, "Reminder, Carl Nell is a retired Army colonel who was the Army's liaison for the UAP task force from 2021 to 2022. David Grusch's assertion concerning the existence of a terrestrial arms race occurring sub rosa over the past 80 years focused on reverse engineering technologies of an unknown origin is fundamentally correct, as is the indisputable realization that at least some of these technologies of unknown origin derive from non-human intelligence." That's a direct quote from Carl E. Nell, and he's going to be at the event. And I do know that event will ultimately be published on YouTube. So I'm definitely be covering that in depth in the days after it happens. I'm really tired right now, as you might be able to tell, but I want to cover one more thing, and that's it. I want to cover an essay that I wrote very recently on Twitter because it really ties into everything we've discussed. I wrote this essay on Twitter on November 10th, and here we go. "I strive to remain open-minded about who the non-human intelligences are and what their agenda is. I'm smart enough not to make any definitive claims. Nobody should do that. I think we should, however, be cautious of simple answers. For example, if it's true that there are UFO crash retrievals worldwide, it seems convenient to assume that this is all just random crashes and governments shooting them down, especially when considering the claims that some have allegedly landed without governmental interference, only to be abandoned and left for humans to retrieve. We also should not ignore the possibility that a contractual agreement was made between one or more governments and at least one NHI species. David Grusch has touched on this. My point is not to demonize NHI, nor is it to idealize them. ultimately, it may be a mixed bag. Fallible NHIs interacting with fallible humans, with some species more enlightened than others. Alternatively, it could be one grand scheme by multiple intelligences to steer humanity in the best possible direction through various mysterious operations. A means justify the ends kind of scenario. I sure like that narrative and have done videos on it, but I also wouldn't bet the house on that lovely scenario. Carry on. Yeah, as we get closer to disclosure and we pass that threshold, assuming I'm right about the topic, which I might not be, I don't think people are going to as easily get away with trying to tell the masses what this all means, because that's, at the end of the day, that's ridiculous. We don't even know much about our own ocean. We know more about the moon and about other planets in our solar system, as far as I understand, and at least in some respects, than we do about our own ocean. And people are going to get on a pedestal and try to tell us what this all means and all of its complexity and the nature, the psychology of these species. I mean, that's ridiculous. I'm sorry. Wake up. Wake up. Humility is the right perspective, in my opinion. Not grandiose claims that can't be backed up with evidence. Believe me, bro, ain't good enough. We as a collective civilization have to work together to get to the bottom of it. And it may not happen in our lifetimes, but we need to start. It can't remain in little silos in this government and that government, and they don't want to tell the world, and they may have even made contractual agreements with other species. Ridiculous. Wake up. We need to be on this yesterday, collectively, all 8 billion of us. You understand? That's all I got to say. Please do not forget to subscribe. And if you'd like to support this channel, you can check out my merch shop where I sell t-shirts. You could become a patron. You could become a YouTube member. You could give me a one-time donation. All of these possibilities can be accessed in the description box below, or you can just slap a like on this bad boy and I'll appreciate it so much. Thank you so much for watching. You're still here, aren't you? What is the name of the Matrix individual I cited in this video? Type that in the description box below if you feel so brave. I'll see you in the next episode. Special thanks to all patrons, YouTube members, those that have bought merch, those that have given me a one-time donation. I couldn't do without you. Thank you so much. See you in the next episode.